Hey folks, Phil Beeman here. I'm sitting in my university office today, and I thought I'd share a few thoughts about a meeting I was at yesterday with the VetoPharma reps set up by our provincial apiarist. And there's a few beekeepers there, and they shared with us some information about concerns they're aware of with respect to the efficacy of their product. So I thought I would just share my own impression of how that went down. First of all, they gave us a little bit of a door prize, so encouraging us to monitor our bees. So I did accept a gift, but I can be bought, but it would be more than that. But essentially the way the meeting went was collegial, and people shared some perspectives, and I thought that was great. But in terms of what they were reporting on, they started first of all by defining what resistance is, sort of in a scientific understanding of that, and how it could be observed. And so, and especially although resistance might be, observed in the field by a reduction in efficacy of a product, ultimately, a diagnosis of that would be a change in the LD50, the lethal dose to kill 50 or percent, or the lethal dose to kill 90% of the target species, and could also be diagnosed or measured by changes in enzymes or gene mutations within the target species. So, when we're talking in our hive saying, "Oh, I might be concerned of resistance," or "I'm seeing a lack of efficacy," that would be properly measured by doing some sort of assessment of the LD50, LD90 of the mites. They also, and this is not news to anyone, but I think it's an important part of the picture, that Apivar has had a pretty long life as a single-use product. Our industry here in Canada used first Apistan, and that had a decent run, almost 10 years. And then Checkmate or Kumafos, that for most of us only gave us a couple years of control. And then, and it seems like the resistance from Apistan kind of piggybacked right into the Checkmate. And then we got Apivar, and that's had a nice long run. And I think it's we should probably think that that's not just luck; that there might be the mode of action might be different enough that it's a different product that needs to be thought of differently. Um, they were they were quite cognizant of concerns and issues that beekeepers have been reporting, not only in Canada and the United States, but other parts of the world. And they mentioned specifically Italy, where they had cases of resistance for some time, and those have been brought to their attention by users, and they were testing efficacy uh, and playing with that in a scientific way. They were also aware of some concerns beekeepers have about ease of use. Tearing those perforated strips can be not particularly user friendly when you typically are wearing gloves, or maybe you should be wearing rubber gloves. Um, for myself, ease of use, I'd tear those things apart with my teeth if I knew they'd keep my bees alive. So I guess that wasn't what I was there for, to hear about ease of use issues. When they started talking about sort of state of the art, where their perspective of the science is at, um, the mutations and I don't know, gene mutation might be manifested in new enzymes present in the mites, right? So they can maybe they have a new enzyme that can help them process the previously toxic chemical. And while that was well documented for other uh, known resistance cases for amatraz, they were not having a whole lot of luck proving that there was a single gene mutation that was resulting in a single enzyme that was causing resistance. And that's actually taken by them to be a good thing, because if you need multiple genes to kind of interact in order to get resistance, or if those genes are recessive rather than dominant and recede, don't express themselves strongly, then what we can expect is that that resistance would then recede more quickly in the without the selective pressure of the repeated application of the toxin. And that is what they're finding, that they're getting returns to susceptibility. So the mites would that were no a population of mites known to be susceptible would recede uh, that into susceptibility again in a shorter time frame. I think I have written down in my notes 3 to 4 years. That also would manifest itself in the resistance for this product looking differently than how previous cycles of resistance have looked to beekeepers. Where, thinking back to Apistan in my own operation, very effective for a bunch of years, and then it, it stopped kind of right across the whole operation over a single year. Um, and resistance was widespread. And whereas resistance, if it's a complex kind of resistance where you need a whole bunch of things to go right in the mite for them to be resistant, then um, and the odds are lower, as kind of seems to be the case, then you get this weird thing of having those outlier colonies. The product is still effective across your operation, but then you find a one or a small number of colonies that are where you're not getting efficacious treatment. And so I guess that was a big takeaway for me, was that resistance in this particular instance is not going to be exactly the way we might have experienced before. So what you're watching for is outlier colonies rather than widespread resistance or ineffective treatment. So that, I think, is an alert for all of us to say, here, okay, here's what you're looking for. You're looking for outlier colonies, which is tricky because most of us don't sample colony by colony. So what we're really looking for is probably disasters that are too late to fix. And really, you should then be thinking, is it really, if I'm finding these outlier colonies, should I just be eradicating them? Should I be depopulating those colonies? They're probably going to crash anyway. And that might be a strategy a beekeeper would employ to hammer down those problems. Um, so that's kind of what we got out of it, or at least what I got out of it. In terms of the ease of use, they are already shipping to Canada, and it sounds like to other places. Although it's not, I don't think it's going out the door yet, but it's already going to the suppliers' warehouses of a new, easier to use strip. I think they're just probably perforating, and they had a video of someone ripping whole batches of them without gritting their teeth. Great if it happens. And so, and they also pointed to, although it's still not public knowledge, but they said there will be coming announcements soon on potential new active ingredients. And so that's exciting to have, because part of resistance is uh, because we're not able to effectively have a rotation plan. At the industry level, thinking about all of this, what do we do? Suppose we do get a new product. Uh, is our industry willing to recommend something like, even numbered years, use Apivar, odd numbered years, use something else? Would beekeepers comply with that? Would that be useful? Um, we should probably looking back to some of those old products. I haven't used Apistan probably in 15 years. Um, would it be effective? I should probably do some trials myself to see if I can get susceptibility on Apistan. So, lots to think about. They, I think that they showed their commitment to the bee industry. Those folks are touring around to different conventions and so on. So, hear them out if they come your way. Um, if you're trying to keep your bees alive, as we all are, good luck to you on that. Um, but I think the looks. My takeaway is based on what they're finding, a good rotation plan should be able to keep resistance at the door and not completely overwhelm your operation. So I encourage you to find alternative products, use them in a sensible way, and let's all work together on this. There are beekeepers who, let's face it, want to up the dose, and that's essentially if the LD90, the lethal dose for killing 90%, changes, right? So they start to become resistant, and now you need a higher dose to get that LD90 again. That's no surprise. You up the dose, you would kill them. Eventually, you might just drown them in it if you have to dose them high enough. Um, and I think the question is, would that solve resistance, or is that doubling down on resistance? Their internal research was that um, you would get more bang for the buck by having better distribution of the same amount of product within the hive than you would by simply increasing the dose. Um, the bees have to walk across and be exposed to that strip physically in order for it to be effective. So, more smaller strips. They mentioned beekeepers in Europe were experimenting with cutting the strips into smaller pieces and distributing them more widely in the hive. I think that would be something interesting to try. Um, so that's kind of what I've got. I'd be interested to hear your perspectives, and there were other folks there. They'll have their own takeaways. Uh, I'm I've been really freaked out about resistance for a while because I knew previous products, uh, you know, had cycled through, and we were past due for resistance crisis in Apivar. So, I've been, sounding the alarm on this for some time. Um, what I heard yesterday was actually, I think, encouraging because it tells me there is a scientific explanation for why we haven't had resistance as quickly. And it's because the resistance to this particular product is more than a single gene mutation. It needs multiple adaptations by the mite, and those have to happen in combination, and therefore um, that's that's just a mathematically more or a mathematically more improbable thing. And so that is saying you should now go back to your operation, think about how you're using the product, stretch out your rotation. A good plan should result in being able to keep it out of your operation. I oh, the last thing. Um, some beekeepers, and I've heard people say this to me. There's been comments on my channel about how people suspect that the strips have had manufacturing inconsistencies, and we asked this question specifically. And the way these strips are made, it's just not possible for there to be variation within the strips in a package. It's all mixed together, and then the strips are made. No one's pouring the amatraz into strips one by one. So it's not like someone forgot to press a button on 2 strips out of 10 or 100 strips out of 1,000. And so I think that's useful information too. That if you're seeing inconsistencies in its efficacy in your hives, that is what other people are seeing. That's what they're finding when they look scientifically, and that is better than having it be ineffective across your whole operation. But that can't be explained by attributing it to problems with the making of the strips. That's not what's happening. There's something going on with the mites, and so that's what we have. Let me know what you think. Have a great day.